right, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Dunnigan Mott Music and Movie Podcast, episode number 11. I'm Devin Dunnigan, of course, and here with me, as always, is Mr. Stephen Mott. How you doing, Stephen?
I'm doing great today, brother drummer.
All right, well, today was Stephen's pick. He already revealed it in the prior episode with Done With Mirrors by Aerosmith, but I'm going to still let Stephen tell us what the album is. So, Stephen, what's this week's album?
Oh, the album is Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble. The Sky is Crying, brother. From what, 1991?
1991.
All right, that's what I thought, brother.
So, I do have a little bit of backstory. Did you get any backstory on this album, Stephen?
I don't know anything. All I know is what you told me, so I'll just let you tell them about it.
Well, this album is pretty much a reject album, songs that just didn't make it on the previous records. And this was compiled by Jimmy Vaughan, of course, Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother, former guitarist of the Fabulous Thunderbirds. And this is pretty much the best of the rejects from the albums Couldn't Stand the Weather, Soul to Soul, and In Step. And this is one of the first albums, I believe, that I heard by Stevie Ray Vaughan, or at least one of the ones I remember getting into. And I've always really enjoyed this album. I think it's a good album, even though it's part of the discography officially. I think it's just as part of the discography as some of the other ones. I have a few small issues with this album, but nothing that really ruins the album for me. Just a few small gripes here and there. But this was released, of course, after Stevie Ray Vaughan's unfortunate death, and we're recording on August the 27th. And this is the day that Stevie Ray Vaughan actually died. So this episode goes out to him. This is kind of going to be a tribute to Stevie Ray Vaughan. So, Stephen, let's go ahead and get into this album. Take the first track, Boot Hill.
All right, track number 1, Boot Hill, from 1989, or so it said what I was looking at. To me, this is very good, pure blues. I saw where people were commenting on YouTube and stuff under this, like it was a mix of this kind of blues, like Chicago and funk blues or some junk like that. But to me, it just sounds like good pure blues. And I think SRV should have played more slide throughout his whole career, because obviously he's very good at it from this. And from what I understand, this might be one of the only ones, or the only one, where he did. So, and also, the only thing I would like to comment as far as the instrumentationals, other than that, is that towards the end, it seemed like the drummer, if I'm not mistaken, his name is Chris Layton.
Yeah.
So, okay. Just making sure. It seems like he got a little carried away at the end with the cymbal hits and stuff. But other than that, the band is pretty tight throughout the whole album. It kind of seemed out of place and almost sounded like a mistake, to be honest. But other than that, it was a very good track. So to you, brother.
All righty, the first track on the album, Boot Hill, a great opener to the album, great slide work. Piano is great by Reese Winans. Great track overall, and maybe my favorite on the album. This was actually recorded for In Step in 1989. As you said, it was recorded in 89, but was rejected because of lyrical matter and tone. Great slide solo, one of the few instances of SRV using slide. Overall, one of the better songs on this album. And as I said earlier, the tracks were compiled by SRV. And I like that the song, or Jimmy Vaughan, not SRV.
I was going to say.
And the track is short and to the point, which I think kind of betters the song in a way. So, back to you, Stephen.
The only thing about that one else I have to say is kind of responding to your, not response, but your comment. Anyway, I think to tell you the truth, I forgot to say before, but I think he should have done like a long slide solo or something to it. That would have been cool. Just him playing random stuff, and that's one thing about SRV that other players don't do as well. Is he even when he plays in the studio, he does a lot of improvisation with his stuff. A lot of people don't do that. They do it live, but they won't do it as much in the studio. And he does a lot of guitar work on this on all these tracks. But I wish he would have done a little bit more of the slide work on this one because he does one little solo, and that's pretty much all for the slide playing. But anyway, so I guess we can move on to the next track. Oh, there, brother. Number two, track number two. The Sky is Crying, the title track, I guess, from 1985 or so. It said on YouTube's. He does a great job keeping the energy up in this one. And what I mean by that is a lot of blues players, or any kind of players for that matter, or performers, they just kind of start off strong, and they kind of just like off because they plan something to do and like a riff or something, and then they kind of just go back down after that. But he keeps the energy up the whole time. Usually the way he does with a live performance, but he kind of captured that on in the studio here, I believe, pretty much genuinely. And I like the way he repeats the same sort of riff in the solo. If you listen really close, you might have to really be a guitarist to understand what I'm talking about. But it's like a certain it's a series of three riffs that he does, and it's like he does it three times throughout the whole solo. He does it three times over again in the same sequence, and I think it's not very recommendable. I guess this is the way you'd say that. I'm not really sure, but recommendable to do that, you know, during a solo, especially. But he kind of pulls it off because he's Stevie Ray Vaughan, so that pretty much sums it up. Anyway, the overall song itself, is not going to blow you away with anything, but he kind of takes it to new levels, in my opinion. And when Eric Clapton did this one in particular, this is how I first figured out about The Sky is Crying. And it was written by, I think, an old blues man or something. Really can't think of his name right now. I'll look it up or something and let you know. But anyway, this one, he on Eric Clapton's version, he just kind of a slow version, and the energy is kind of not as much there as this version, even live. So I think he does a better job with it. So I know I've got long-winded. So back to you, brother.
Okay. The Sky is Crying, the title track on the album. Classic blues number. Many have covered it, including, like you said, Eric Clapton. Great version by Stevie Ray Vaughan, though. Great guitar work and bass and drum work by Tommy Shannon and Chris Layton, respectively. Awesome stuff. The organ in the background adds a whole lot to this song. It's an outtake from Soul to Soul from 1985, but it sounded like at first I thought this was an outtake from Couldn't Stand the Weather, but it's not. Great guitar solo on this track, blues with a capital B. This is one of the many songs from a huge amount of demos for the album Soul to Soul, and we talked about it prior to getting into this episode that this was kind of at the height of Stevie Ray Vaughan's drug abuse and things like that. So that album, Soul to Soul, it was weirdly made, and you talked about that you kind of felt that it could have been a lot better than what it was. I kind of feel the same way, but there's tons of demos out there from that album, and I still think it's a really good album. Great song, love it. Definitely deserves to be the namesake on this album, and on this album actually too. Great stuff. Probably should have actually been on Soul to Soul, and the production all across this album I think is really, really good. So back to you, Stephen.
All right, brother. So I guess we're going to move on to number three, correct?
Yep.
All right. Number three, called Empty Arms. and from 1984. And I seen on YouTube where I think it said that it's kind of rare to see something that SRV composed or whatever, they call it on there, written or whatever. But it said that he wrote it on there. Is that true, brother?
I believe so.
Okay. Well, compose or whatever you want to call it, but you know how they put on there. Anyway, but the only thing with this one is I like the track sort of, but I think it kind of follows a mantra with everything that Stevie Ray Vaughan does, with the exception of a couple of songs. The songs themselves really aren't that spectacular, but SRV takes it to another level. I think he should have tried stuff, higher class blues songs, like Stormy Monday and stuff like that. Kind of like this, kind of like he did with The Sky's Crying. I thought he should have done a lot more of that, especially live. But anyway, with this one, like I said, the song itself was not really that spectacular in my opinion. But I think instead of repeating that same riff between the lines and the verses over and over, he should have just played random lead lines over it. In my opinion, it would have sounded a lot better. And like I was telling Devin before we started recording, really, I think it's really better when you have a four-piece band in the studio, in my opinion, to overdub another guitar if you don't have another guitar, on the site, or just like a session player, even, or something like that, just to play rhythm while you do some other stuff with it at least. But I guess that's about all. The track itself is, I mean, well, not the track, but the song's not that good. But SRV, kind of peps it up a lot with his blues stuff, and he could probably pep up anything, to tell you the truth, to a certain extent. He could probably sing the phone book, as they say a lot of different people. But I guess to you, brother.
Okay. Empty Arms, a song that was actually on a prior album in a different arrangement. And I love the opening of this track and the guitar jam at the beginning prior to getting into the verses. I like both versions of the track, but this is probably my favorite. The original version, well, the version that was featured on a prior studio album, it was actually originally on Soul to Soul, had Stevie Ray Vaughan playing drums. And it's a much different song. I think the lyrics are pretty well the same. It's just got a whole different vibe going to it with that version. An outtake from Couldn't Stand the Weather, or Couldn't Stand the Weather, of course, from 1984. Great guitar solo on this track, straight peppy blues shuffle. Reminds me a lot of Every Day I Have the Blues musical wise. Great instrumentation and musicianship, great bluesy ending. And this is the original version of the track. This is the track that was performed back in the early days. There's bootlegs out there from where they performed this track very early on, and it was performed in this arrangement. So back to you, Steve. Good song.
All right, brother. That's an interesting opinion there. But anyway, so track number 4, Little Wing. I'm very interested to find out what this was a reject off of, because if I'm not mistaken, was this on Can't Stand the Weather?
It was not, but it's an outtake from it.
Okay, so it was on an album eventually, though, wasn't it?
No, yeah, on this album.
Okay. Well, I thought I saw it
right.
on one of his previous albums too.
It was on there as a bonus track.
Oh, I see.
Okay. But that was later on for the remaster.
Okay, that makes sense why I saw that. Anyway, so Little Wing, instrumental version. About the 2-minute mark. I don't know why I said that. It was just a way to go back and reference it if you want to, because I just happened to look at the time. About the 2-minute mark, it sounds like he starts playing some jazz riffs there a little bit, and he kind of does it a lot later too. In this one song, he infuses a lot of different stuff together in this one track of different style of guitar. Anyway, at different times he steals riffs from different genres. And let's see, I've got it wrote down here what I thought it all was: rock riffs, blues, and jazz riffs. In my opinion, that's just my opinion of what it sounds like to me, of type of stuff that he kind of stole. But that's very impressive in my opinion, and it kind of reminds me too of the other one. Shoot, that's so stupid. I can't. Sometimes I just have a brain issue. Anyway, I'll just come back to it later. But anyway, yeah, great instrumental, and I think I read on Wikipedia that it had it had got nominated for some kind of award, some Grammy or something like that for this version. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I guess to you, brother.
Okay. And I didn't know that about it was nominated for something. I think I may recall seeing something about it, but it's been a while. But getting into it here, an instrumental version of the Hendrix track, and of course the Derek the Domino song as well. Their cover of it from the Layla album. I love this track. Maybe the best known song off this album, up next to another track coming up. The definition of smooth, great stuff. A video exists for this song. I saw it, and it's a very, very cool video. Has a collage of clips from different videos. If I'm not bad wrong, I saw it a long time ago on VH1 Classic or MTV Classic, whatever you want to call it, and it was a pretty cool video. This is an outtake from Couldn't Stand the Weather in '84. Great jazzy guitar work throughout. Overall, great guitar throughout, along with great instrumentation and musicianship. Great stuff. Love it. Great song. A constant staple for SRV in the early days. There's actually another version, which is from the Soul to Soul sessions, with an outro of Third Stone from the Sun, which is another Jimi Hendrix track. And that was on the remaster for Soul to Soul. And that's the way they actually performed it back in the early days. But this was recorded for Couldn't Stand the Weather. And like I put in my notes, that show, the Third Stone from the Sun intro was common for their shows back in the day. There's a great version of this on the El Macambo, which I'll talk about a little bit later as well. El Macambo show, I have it on VHS. I found it a Goodwill, very cheap, so I picked it up. Sequence so far in this album is impeccable. Couldn't ask for it to be no better. And that's pretty much all I have. I have a Kiss DVD from Detroit '92, and actually at the end of it, they played this song throughout as the audience is leaving out, and it sets a mood definitely for that whole thing. So back to you, Steven.
All right, brother. So to number 5, Wham. Like I told you before, brother, this one I really dig. This one, this one and the other one the most out of the whole album. This is a very well pieced together piece of music and track, pretty much all the way through. I like the way it's arranged. It's perfect for the objective of it all. And shoot, and that's pretty much it. It's got a good groove to it, and I like the main riff and all. That's the best thing about it, really. But what about you, brother?
Another classic song on this album, originally done by Lonnie Mack way back in the day. He was actually a huge, huge influence on Stevie Ray Vaughan. A pretty common instrumental within the blues genre. This was actually done previously with a duel between Stevie Ray and Lonnie Mack on Lonnie Mack's, I believe it's called Lightning Strikes Twice, or no, Strike Like Lightning, I believe is what it's called. From '84 or '85, I used to have the album, I probably still do somewhere, and that was actually, Stevie Ray Vaughan came on there, and that was basically supposed to be a big comeback for Lonnie Mack, which it was. And he played a lot on that album, even sung on that album, actually. So if you haven't checked that album out, please do go check out. I believe it's called "Strike Like Lightning" by Lonnie Mack, or "Lightning Strikes Twice." Something to do with lightning. I don't forgot the title now. "Oreo Cookie Blues" is the big song on that album. An outtake from "Couldn't Stand the Weather." This is where the sequencing gets off to me. This is the small problem I have with this album. I don't like sequencing two instrumentals right next to one another. Doesn't I mean it's nothing big. It's not a huge problem, but I put what the heck, so it's not that big of a problem. But I don't like sequencing instrumentals together. A good cover though, too short, and I hate that when it has an ending on the song, like the song actually ends, they fade it out. I don't get that decision unless like there was a big jam at the end. But if it was a big jam or any guitar soloing or something like that, should have left it in. That would have been pretty cool to have. So it has an ending but fades out still, so which is weird. You can actually even hear the ending at the as it fades out. So that's kind of weird. I don't particularly like that. But back to you, Stephen.
By the way, I remember you had said something, and I figured that's the one you was talking about because I heard exactly what you. Anyway, so the next one, track number 6, "May I Have a Talk with You." To me, it moves way too slowly. It would have been better if it was much faster pace, faster tempo, rather, and more of a shuffle type beat of a song, and kind of faster, pretty much. And I really love the lead playing that SRV does on this particular track. He doesn't really play a big lead role as far as guitar because the fact that they don't have another guitarist. But I really think that would make a big difference in his playing because it would let his lead stuff shine through a lot more, like with the instrumentals with Little Wing. When he really gets the chance to solo a long time, you can really see the different genres that he knows how to play, and he can really he's got the chops and got all the pieces of a great guitar player. So I really wish that could shine through more, and not just trying to shine him as a lead, a front man, which he's great at too. But I wish that main guitar part would come through as well, a part of him. But overall, I really like the song, and I guess to you, brother.
Okay. May I have a talk with you? Track number 5. This and Wham to me should have swapped places. I think that he should have done something with vocals after Little Wing. And actually, I've got a different sequence for this album as a playlist on Spotify. I haven't listened to it yet, but I resequenced it, and I'll talk about that at the ending of the episode. Great plotting, slow bluesy song, and I don't mean plotting in a negative way. It's a real slow dragging blues track. Enjoy it. Kind of filler, but I still really enjoy it. I think it's a good song. Good slow blues. Another soul to soul outtake. A majority of these outtakes are actually from that album. It's weird that some of these songs could have been released on albums and fit well. I think a lot of these songs on this album, well, most of the songs really could have been put on album. Well, keep saying I've done two double negatives here. All of these songs could have fit on the albums and really fit in well with it. The title is often mistitled for a song from Instep called "Love Me Darling" on this DVD called "One Night in Texas." They called the track "Love Me Darling." The title of this track. May I have a talk with you? But it's actually called "Love Me Darling." Really good guitar solo. I love the part where it kind of sounds like he's just kind of just strumming that guitar as hard as he possibly can, and he just gets that weird sound out of it. Great guitar solo on this track. I love the lyric in the song. I like my coffee sweet in the morning, and I'm crazy about my tea at night. Great lyric. And that's all I have for this particular track. Good track. Maybe a little bit filler, but I still really, really enjoy it. May I have a talk with you? Great track. Back to you, Steve.
All right, brother. On to track number 7. So, track called "Close to You." To me, it sounds too honky tonky ish. And Stevie Ray Vaughan has a tendency to go for that basic, blues shuffle rhythm, and you know exactly what I'm talking about if you hear this song. And he just has too much of a tendency to that's his kind of go to. It's like if he doesn't know what to do with the song, he goes for that every time. And really, I think he needs to vary that up some because for this one, it just seems way to just fillerish, like he didn't have anything else to do with it, so he just went bluesy, just straight shuffle beat with it. That's the way it just came out across for me, and it really needed lead guitar. Period. I think he should have just recorded it the way it was with everything else with it, and just added lead later. I wish he would have done a lot more of that, and his stuff would have turned out a lot better. Now his live stuff is different. I'm not talking about that. Anything live, it goes over well like it is, because he just has a lot more energy live, and because people and everything help you play and all too. And when you're in the studio, it's just really different. I mean, I don't care who you are. It's people help you play. You're gonna play better live, and even I've heard everybody say that. Like Dwayne Allman, he's talked about that extensively, and about the Allman Brothers having trouble. I know I'm going off the other topics, but really, Allman Brothers, they had a lot of trouble in the studio because just trying to capture the moment or whatever. That's why they did more. They focused on live stuff more, even in the later years. So, what about you, brother?
All right. Well, what number track is this? Track
This
7,
is
right?
number 7, right?
Okay. Track number 7, Close to You. The beginning has the little line, "Don't roll over now," which I think is kind of funny. Good blues shuffle, kind of another sequencing problem. I would have added this after Wham, but of course, like I said, with the two prior tracks swapped, and put this after Wham. Outtake from Couldn't Stand the Weather. Production is really good. Great guitar solo. I really enjoy the lyrics on this song in particular. And the ending part is very good as well. So that's all I've got, pretty short and to the point. So, Stephen, what's your thoughts on the next track? Or if you have anything else to say about this?
No, I pretty much said all my piece about this one. So on to the next one. Number 8. I don't know how to say it. Tell you the truth. Chitlins. I can't even read my writing. Car, whatever. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about if you know the album. Track number 8. So SRV. I've got written down in my notes. I got SRV can play jazz too, and then exclamation point. He was. If you know Stevie T, I put down here he was literally in quotation marks Stevie T shredding at some points, which he was sweet picking. I'm not kidding. He really was. I know what that sounds like. He was, which shows that he can and should do a lot more often. He should incorporate that into blues, in my opinion, a lot more. And well, not a lot more, period, because this was a jazz track, and it really needs to be incorporated into his blues stuff. It would be very interesting sounding, that style, but I really wished I could have heard him use that technique a lot more, and a lot more often anyway. So and the only thing else I have to say is the tempo. I would have went a little faster with too. That's the thing about this album. The tempos kind of run together, sort of. They all sort of have the same. I know this wasn't recorded at the same time, but just listening to it, it still has to, in my opinion, the flow still kind of has to have a certain thing for me to really listen to it all the way through. And this one really almost has that quality, but it kind of, all the tempos sort of run together, if that makes any sense. But I guess to you now, Brother Zephas.
Okay. Chitlins Con Carney, I believe is how it's pronounced. I could be totally wrong. A jazz instrumental, cool song. I said kind of filler. I go back on that. This is not filler. A a great song. Another soul to soul outtake. This is actually, I said Boot Hill was my favorite. This is my favorite. This is my favorite song on the album, actually. Good track overall, some cool drumming on here, as well as impeccable bass work by Tommy Shannon. And it seems like, and I don't know if I was picking up something in the house when I was listening to the song, but it seems like there's a small amount of talking during the song. You can barely hear it. It seems like somebody's talking in the studio and it just fed through the mic or whatever. If Stevie Ray's playing and it fed through the mic, I don't know. But overall, I really love this song. I don't think it's filler. I'll emphasize on that. I don't think it's a filler track. Great track, best song on the album. Back to you, Steve.
Track number 9. I mean 9. So excited. The bass line sounds just like a song by the Yardbirds that Eric Clapton recorded while he was with them not long after he left, named "Got to Hurry." It was probably this particular bass line and guitar riff is kind of commonly used with blues, but at the same time, it's kind of like just it seems like overused. But the one that stuck out to me that mainly was used at was "Got to Hurry," because the song is literally based around it. And another one that comes to mind is an Eric Clapton one from the Cradle. But and a couple of those on there, actually, there's a couple of songs that have that same sort of rhythm to it. I mean, with the rhythm guitar and stuff and bass. But anyway, it's just the instrumental sounds like it was just a jam they put together in the studio in like 5 seconds. You know, like they just came out with a bass line and just said, "Oh yeah, let's just jam over that." That's what it kind of sounded like to me. It just kind of sounded thrown together. And this is the most one on the whole album where I can very much tell why it was an outtake and a reject. Pretty much is what I'm trying to get at. So, what about you, brother?
So excited. I probably would have swapped this track with the last track, but I've got my own sequenced version I'll talk about at the end, so I'm not going to go on with that. I will go back and say any track I said was filler on this album, I'll go back on. I don't think they're filler. I'll emphasize that. I think this album, just thinking about it now, looking back on my last listen this morning, I think I look at it in a good retrospective, and I don't think that these tracks are filler really. I just think it's overall kind of a sequencing issue with me. Good classic SRV track that never made it to an album. This track reminds me a lot of Say What from Soul to Soul. This was a staple in the very early days. A great version of this track is on the Il Macambo show released in the early 90s, which I talked about earlier. Great blues shuffle. There's actually lyrics to this song that were performed like once or something like that. It's on YouTube. I've watched it before. Cool stuff. Great guitar work. Another soul to soul outtake. Great track. Classic. Short and to the point. They really cut loose toward the end of the song. And this is another one I hate that kind of fades out when you can actually hear the ending of it. I think that's very strange to do that. And it's also a slightly different arrangement because live they just go in with the main riff that goes down. That's the way they started. But in this, you've got him going full in with a guitar solo. Let's go down, 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 down. You got that, and so it's a bit different. So you guys got to hear my wonderful singing a guitar riff. So that's what I was telling you about, Stephen. I come up with riffs. Back to you, Steve.
All right, brother. The last track on the album, track number 10. In other words, 10 in English. Life by the Drop. This song has only one problem with it. It sucks. No, I'm just kidding. It has only one problem with it. It's too short. This song, in my opinion, is majorly too unrecognized. And Stevie really shows his voice on this one, like none of the blues stuff. He really shows he can really sing great. And pretty much it. I love the song. This is my favorite one on the whole album by far. The other ones sound kind of petty to me, but this one is a very high level song, and I don't know if it was written for this album or given to Stevie. I know it was written by this other guy. He I don't know if he recorded it or not. What I'm trying to say, it was recorded for somebody else, but it should have been. It should have been released earlier. It's a great song, and that's pretty much it. I love the song, and it's another example too of. But this, I think it fits well with this one. The blues shuffle feel to it. And almost you wouldn't think it would fit with a song like this, but it actually does. He makes it sound good with this one, unlike the other track. But how about to you, brother?
Life by the Drop, classic SRV, great song. Good song is what I actually put, but it's a great song. The other well-known song off the album, great closure to the album, but I think it could have been track number 9, but I'll get into that later, like I said, with my sequencing. An outtake from Instep could have fit in very good on that album, I think. I don't know why it was not on there. Seems a little unfinished at one part of the song where he sings like part of the mad chorus or whatever, and then just strums on the guitar. It's part of the track, but it kind of seemed a little bit unfinished in that respect. A great conclusion to SRV's career, with this album being kind of the last album for him, of course, released after his death, as I've talked about. And I think it's really good bluesy song, good bluesy shuffle, as you said. Lyrics are really good as well, short and to the point. Overall, a really good song. And this was written by some other people. Doyle Bramhall the first, I know, is one guy who wrote it, and a woman named Barbara Logan. But I'm assuming that I think Stevie Ray and Doyle Bramhall, they worked together here and there. So I'm assuming that they kind of worked together somewhat on this track, or either he wrote it and gave it to Stevie Ray. I don't know. But overall, I think it's a really good song, great ending to this album. And I'll just get into my final thoughts and then pass it back to you. Great album, has some great outtakes. I wish there was some outtakes from the first album to kind of even things out. Maybe even some more outtakes, because there are some out there that surfaced on the remasters of all albums. I have issues with some of the sequencing, as I've talked about pretty prominently during the review. It still is very good, or it's still very good. I get my grammar so screwed up sometimes. I do also wish that it had more vocals type songs to pan out the instrumentals. And I put at the very end, there's a few too many instrumentals. But once again, can't express how great this album is. I have some small problems, but I still think it's a really, really good album. And before we move to your final thoughts, Steve, I do want to talk about my sequencing and just see what you think overall here. Let me pull it up. So I made it earlier this morning. I just wanted to see maybe if it made a big difference. And pretty much I just separated things out and kind of made a different type of sequencing for it. And something I thought fit more under the lines of what he had done on his prior albums. So here it is, Sky is Crying resequence. I started with Boot Heel, then went to So Excited, The Sky is Crying, Close to You, then ended side one with Little Wing. I looked at it as if it was a vinyl record. Opened side two with Empty Arms, then went into Wham, May I Have a Talk with You, Chitlins Con Carne, and then ended it with Life by the Drop. So what do you think of that sequencing?
That sounds great to me, brother.
And I probably would actually change May I Have a Talk to You and Chitlins Con Carne, because they kind of do have a similar kind of vibe. So I may would change those, switch tracks with something else. Maybe switch Close to You in that track or something. So back to you, Steve, and your final thoughts, final opinions, your rating, whatever.
All right. My rating, I'll just go ahead and say, first of all, is 9 out of 10 for this album. And that's just because I'm not saying it never picked up throughout the whole album itself. It was a great album in my opinion overall. But because the way I wrote it kind of made it sound like that. But really, I just mean at certain parts it seemed like towards the middle it should have, like you said, it should have been more vocal oriented. Should have kind of picked the pace up more energetic, and it really didn't. And that's probably because it's a compilation. And it kind of comes back to the track order. I think that kind of would have fixed a lot of that problem. But and other than that, the songs were kind of petty in my opinion. But that's just the songwriting pretty much. He takes these songs that were really not that great and really make something pretty decent out of them. Some of them you can't make great, in my opinion. Some songs you can really, anybody could sing them. They'd sound sort of not really as good or average, but anyway, that's just my opinion. And there I did read where on this album when it was reviewed when it first came out as people were looking at it as a regular album and not as a compilation. And obviously, they knew that he had gotten killed or whatever in a wreck or in a helicopter crash, as they all probably knew then, but they were just being buttholes about it and just reviewed it as a normal album anyway. Although, it was put together after, he had nothing to do with the entire thing of putting it together. Obviously, he had to do with recordings, but not of putting it together. But, what I was getting at too is, it's really overall a great album, and I think that these songs really all should have been. None of them should have been rejects, in my opinion. Maybe with the exception of "So Excited," but except for that, none of these should have ever been rejects, in my opinion. Especially from "Soul to Soul," because that album was trash, in my opinion. But that's just me, and 9 out of 10. That's my rating, brother.
Okay, and did I give my rating already?
I don't think it's not the number rating.
Okay. Well, I had it written here with the final thoughts. So I give this album a 9.5 out of 10. Really good album. So you have a pick of the week this week, Stephen.
Yeah, I was thinking about it earlier, and I do have a pick. Go listen to "Old Sock" by Eric Clapton and see what you think. Because that's a very interesting album. Mix of it is a mix of genres. So a mix of stuff. He wrote about 3 off of it, I think. Well, no, probably more like 1 or 2. Co-wrote 1 and then wrote 1 of them, I think. And the rest is blues covers, I think, are along those lines. So go listen to that. What about you, brother?
The one I'm going to pick this week is, of course, it came out a year after this. It's a Stevie Ray Vaughan album. It's called "In the Beginning," and it was recorded in 1980. It was from a radio broadcast, I believe, Sydney Opera House or something or not Sydney Opera House, Austin Opera House, or one of those places. Let me go right here and look it up real quick. It's called "In the Beginning." It was a very, very early show for the Double Trouble band. And really, Double Trouble had existed before with very different members. So it was originally at one point called Triple Threat. And they introduced Stevie Ray Vaughan as Stevie Vaughan, not Stevie Ray Vaughan. And this was recorded at the Steamboat 1874 in Austin, Texas, and was broadcast across KLBJ FM radio, recorded April 30th. My goodness, I'm getting the dates wrong here. I can't talk. This performance took place on April 1st, 1980. And this actually features a different bass player, Jackie Newhouse. But this whole album is smoking. Starts out with a track called "In the Open," then goes to "Slide Thing," which is SRV playing slide.
Then it goes to "Slide It In." I'm playing.
The other one on this album, "They Call Me Guitar Hurricane," "Are You Love I Miss Lovin'," "10 Pound Alley," "Love Struck Baby," "Tell Me," "Shake for Me," and "Live Another Day." And some of these are tracks that made it to some of the other made it to Texas Flood and of some other albums. And a few tracks on there are named different songs, but are actually the names of them are much different on the regular album, like the regular studio albums. But that's a great one. Came out in '92. Great posthumous, I believe is how you pronounce that word, live recording. I'll also talk about real quick another one. I'm going to give two picks of the weeks. Another one, which is really good, is Live at Carnegie Hall, 1984. It's not the full show. The full show is much longer. It was split into two sets. The regular SRV set, and then there's another set with different guest musicians. Dr. John's there. You got Jimmy Vaughan, room full of blues horns. You got another drummer there as well, playing along with Chris Layton. Just a great concert. And you got a female vocalist, Angela Stradley or something like that. She comes out and sings on a track. Just a great live album. Wish they would release every bit of the album because it's out there on bootleg form. And then you've also got on there as they actually filmed part of the show and then stopped filming it. And I think that was a bad thing. That was recorded, I believe, on Stevie Ray's birthday or after his birthday. It was for his birthday party or something. And very, very good live album. And I just hated they didn't video all of it because I wish they could have released that. Everybody there was in mariachi suits, so that was pretty interesting. But overall, both of those picks, In the Beginning, live in Texas, 1980, and live at Carnegie Hall, 1984, definitely go recommend those. Great live albums. It's great stuff. And the dog has finally come in here. So that's my two picks of the week. So, got any further final thoughts? We've got today on Thursday, August the 27th. We've got a brand new episode out, Done with Mirrors by Aerosmith. This album review will probably be out next week on next Thursday. I just recorded a very long episode of the Danger Zone podcast with the guys from Freeform Rock Podcast. Went through the entire Van Halen discography, which took about 3 hours. I'm going to split that in two and then release it as two different videos. And I really enjoy doing that. And that'll be out. Part one will be out Tuesday, and part two will be out later. This will be out next Thursday, as I said. Like I said at the beginning, I want to dedicate this episode to Stevie Ray Vaughan, rest in peace, and long live SRV. Got any other thoughts to add, Stephen?
Yes, I have a movie recommendation.
Okay.
You need to go watch Jason Goes to Hell. That's it. That's all I got, brother. You need to watch it.
Well, next episode after this it's going to be my pick again. So I'm going to choose The Firm. Jimmy Page, Chris Slade, Tony Franklin. I had a brain problem that time, and Paul Rodgers. Great
Chris
album.
Stanton. No, I'm just playing.
I almost said his name. So great album, very different. It's more of a commercial rock sound, but I really enjoy it. I just got the CD off of Amazon. I haven't listened to it. Amazon. I said Amazon. Just got it off of Amazon. Haven't listened to it yet. I may pop that in tonight or at some other point. Just a great album. So that's going to be the next episode 12. We're inching on up through there, Stephen. We're getting content more back out again. Very happy with that. So, hope you all enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. hit the little bell icon to get all notifications on the YouTube portion of this. We're on Anchor.fm. I just put up a bunch of episodes on there from my reviews as well as the podcast. I put up to episode 7, I believe, on there the other night. So we're getting up to date Anchor, and I mean, go follow our YouTube pages, Devin Dunnigan, Stephen Mott, the Dunnigan Mott YouTube, the Dunnigan Mott Music and Movie Podcast YouTube page, the Dunnigan Mott Podcast Network on Anchor.fm. What else is there? Go listen to the Freeform Rock Podcast, Diabolison Podcastica, Decibel Geek, History Science Theater, Bible House, We Hate Movies. I don't know, the Lee Gershman podcast, the Lee Gershman show, all these freaking shows. I mean, you've got tons to listen to, people. So if after you listen to this episode, go listen to some of their stuff too, because those are our podcasting friends. So hope you all enjoyed. You got any final words, Stephen?
Watch Jason Goes to Hell.
Oh, yes. I've even watched the next one, Jason X. That's great, too. Jason in space, Leprechaun in space, Hellraiser in space, everybody in space. That's where we need to go, is space. So
all in one night.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, with that said, this episode is dedicated to the memory of Stevie Ray Vaughan, who passed away on this day. Very unfortunate, gone way too soon. Hope you all enjoy this episode. Like, comment, subscribe. Just tune in to us, period, people. Tune in to us, period. So we hope you all enjoy this episode. Be safe, be healthy, be free. Keep on rocking. I'll just, whatever. God bless you all. And as I always say, when we sign off here at the Dunnigan Mott Music and Movie Podcast, you probably just heard my dog grunt. But as I always say, thank you so much for watching or listening. See you next time.